Okay, so I thought I would start with the end in mind with these digital worksheets and kind of just start by showing you one that I created. And so you can see what we're working towards. This is one that I made. We will do this at the beginning of the school year, especially if we start the year with distance learning. So, in sixth grade for us in social studies, our kids start out with map skills, geography, and timelines. And so we jump right in with continents and oceans first. And so here it is. It's only 6 slides. You can see here, this is PowerPoint. This is my cover page. And if you can see there, I can't make any changes to the background. This is permanent, and this is just the cover. The first page here tells the kids to use this map to help them complete the next page. And then here is the first thing that they would have to do. So the only things on here that they can change are right here. Of course, they need to put their name here. And then the directions say that they need to label the 7 continents and 4 oceans. And so all they would do is they would just come in here, click in here, type their answer, and maybe they might need to refer back and say, oh yeah, that's Asia. So then they would come over here, they would select the text and type it. So they would get all of these filled out. Of course, they would put their full name here. They can't move or change anything else. They could move these around if they really wanted to. They could change the font, the color, the size, all of that. Once they finish this little worksheet, there's a couple of ways that they could turn this in. But what I'm going to have my students do, and a lot of this is going to take some front loading of information for my students. I'm going to have to really train them. But my hope is that once we kind of get past that initial stage of like learning how to do all this, then the worksheets that come after would be a very simple thing for them and they would just start to get used to it. So anyway, I plan to have them take a snipping tool of their final worksheet. So let's say, and I should start by saying that I am on a PC, and if you're using a Mac computer, however you accomplish what I'm about to show you might be different. But PCs have this great little tool. It's called the Snipping Tool. And down here in this little search bar, you just type snipping, and it comes right up, and I'm going to open it. If you don't know about the snipping tool, I feel like it's one of those things that once you know it, I think it's one of the most helpful tools. I have done so much with the snipping tool. Anyway, I will have them, they will click new, and all they do is they literally just like take a picture of their worksheet. So my student here, Anne, would then, I would probably have them just save it to their desktop. And maybe I would put Anne as my name. Maybe I'll have them write what period they're in and save it as a JPEG. So now as a student, all I would need to do is log into my Edsby account and I would find the assignment that I need to submit. And right here, I made a little example assignment. So they would click submit and they would browse their computer. I told them to save it on their desktop. So right here is that document. I would click open, give it a minute. It kind of jumps around a little bit. I can even write a comment to my teacher here if I need to. And then I press submit. Okay, so then as the teacher, when I logged in and I went to go check that assignment, I get a little indicator right here that a student has turned something in. I just have to click on it, click view submissions. And because it is in a JPEG format, I can see this right here. And what's great is that I can zoom in right here. I don't have to do any other clicks or downloads. I can see if they've got all the correct answers and I can X out of it and then just give them a grade. So much of what I'm preparing for next year is dependent upon whether or not we start the school through distance learning or if we're back in the classroom or if there's a blend of the two. So I just wanted to show you one of the things that I will teach the kids, especially if we are in the classroom and we can use the computers. So I would have them save their documents in OneDrive because we are a Microsoft district. So it just makes sense to train them and teach them how to do this. Okay, so save as, and I would tell them to find their OneDrive. And I would probably go ahead and teach them how to make a new folder and help them maybe even make a folder for each subject because they really should start to get used to this. So I'm going to teach them to right click in here, go to new folder. We're going to name it world. Okay, and enter. I'm going to open up that folder, and I actually would probably start to teach them to name their documents exactly what it is. So this is Earth's, and I would hit save. That way, if they went onto Edsby and they uploaded the document, and for some reason, as you already know, Edsby can be weird and delete things. So just in case their assignment were to get, I don't know, removed somehow, they would have an extra copy of it and wouldn't necessarily have to go back and redo it. If we don't start the year in the classroom, and I do end up teaching them just to save it to their desktop, I'll probably encourage them to come onto their desktop and, after they get a grade on this assignment, then to make sure to go in and get rid of it so that their desktop doesn't get cluttered and full of things. So I just clicked it and dragged it to my recycle bin. So back in the digital worksheet that we looked at, I just wanted to show you a couple more things and then we'll get started on how to do this. So this is my cover page. This was just an information page, and this was what we just went over. And then on this one, what I created here was something so that they can click and drag the continents into place. So this is one of those things where they cannot change this part, but they can click and drag these continents and place them on the map. And of course, they need to put their name. On the next page, I just basically want to build on this information. So now I want them to be able to click and drag the continents into place without the outlines. And then the final practice has them also, name the continents. So they click and drag these where they go. Okay, so you can pretty much take any document you want in your computer that you maybe would normally print out for a student, and you can turn this into a digital worksheet using PowerPoint. So right here, I have a worksheet that we would normally do on paper. And so I'm going to show you how I'm going to take this. This is in a PDF format. So I'm going to use that same tool I showed you earlier, the Snipping Tool. And I'm going to click New. Okay, so I like how that looks. Now I'm going to go to File, Save as a JPEG. I could save this as a PNG or a GIF, but for me, the JPEG is probably the best thing to use for this. So I'm going to save this. Okay, so now we got to open up PowerPoint. So this part's really important when you're creating your document. You have to decide if your worksheet is going to be in a portrait or landscape mode. The PDF that I just showed you is landscape, so I have to make this a landscape document, which means if I wanted more than one page or more than one slide on this PowerPoint, they all would have to be in a landscape mode. So that's something to think about. And the first thing I always do is I click and drag over these boxes and I delete those. This is also really important. You want to come up here to the tab that says Design, and we're going to change the slide size. And you want to go down to Custom Slide Size. I changed this into a normal size sheet of paper because all of these digital worksheets could potentially be printed and given to students who require paper packets. So I know that the width, because I'm doing this in landscape, the width needs to be 11 inches and my height is going to be 8.5 inches. And I hit OK. I choose Ensure Fit and I'm ready to start. So I want that worksheet to be in the background and I don't want them to be able to move it around. Normally, when you would put a photo in PowerPoint, you would go to Insert, Pictures, right? And we will use that for something else. But for this, I need to make the background something that they cannot change. So I'm going to go and there's a couple ways you can do this, but I like to just right click right in the center of the blank screen and go to Format Background. Click over here where it says Picture or Texture Fill. And then your picture source, you want to click Insert. Find your image that you just saved. And now that is in the background. This cannot be changed or moved. This is just how it is. One of the first things I want to make sure that I teach the students is to get used to using down here in the bottom right corner to zooming in and out, because it just is going to make when they're completing the digital worksheet, it just makes their life a little easier. And there's a couple of reasons and you'll kind of start to see them. But like if I was to maybe read this, it might look pretty small to me, but I could zoom in to this as a student and I could come up here and I can definitely get a closer view and I can read this better. So, but I can also zoom back out and go to other parts. Okay, so now we need to make this so that they can fill in the information. I'm going to go to Insert and I want to use a text box. And I'm going to click and drag right where they would answer the first blank there. And I'm going to just type click here. And you might want to think about the size of your font. I like to make it smaller, doesn't need to be that big. And I like to change the color so that it stands out on the page. And so now they know where to click to answer longitude lines run blank and are also known as blank. So this is one of those worksheets that might take a little bit of, you might need to help them a little bit more. This is something I would normally do in the classroom under the Elmo with them. So anyway. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select the box that I just made here, and I'm going to wait until I get that 4 arrow cross. Do you see how I'm getting a white cross there? It's got 2 diagonal arrows. Here I just have a cursor, but if I move around and I get that black 4 arrow symbol, I need to make sure I see that before I do this. And I'm going to press and hold Control and Alt. And when I do that, it changes to a plus sign. And now I just have to click on it and drag the next one where I want it to go. Right? And then I let go. And then I can just do this over and over again. So again, I make sure that I'm seeing that when I hover over on top of this, that I see that black arrow and I hold down, I press Control, I hold it down, hold down Alt, see the plus, and then I can click and drag it. And so now I just make all of these where they can just click in and answer what goes in the blank here. And the last thing that I probably need to do is make sure that they can put their name on it, because that just helps me when I'm grading. It's not completely necessary, but I might even change the color just to make it stand out a little more. And that is a very simple way of making a click and fill out document in PowerPoint. So what I would do now is I would actually save this onto my computer somewhere. And then I would close out of it and I would go into Edsby and I would upload this for my students on Edsby. And right here you can see this is where I would post it for the students. I made this one available and all they would need to do is log into Edsby, open this up, double click on it, open it up, and they can begin working on it and turn it into me. Now let's say that you wanted to add a cover page, like just the intro page. Let me show you how to do that. Under the home section here, you're going to go to new slide. I always choose a blank slide. And I'm going to create whatever I want this title page to look like. So just like you would normally create something in PowerPoint, I'm going to use a text box. Okay, so you would just go in here and create the slide to look however you want it to look. And the thing is, right now, if you sent this to the kids like this, they could change it and move it all around, and we don't want that. So what we have to do is make this into a picture. But before I can actually save anything as a picture, this next step is really important. What you need to do is, and I like to zoom out a little bit, is go into, let's see, insert and shapes and click a square and click anywhere, it doesn't matter. I come over here to the top where it says size and I already know my size. So it's 11 inches. Nope, it's not. It's 8.5 inches by 11. And I'm going to go ahead and make this white. And then I'm going to click and drag this. And what's great about PowerPoint, I hope you can see this, it has these guides. So I know that I've lined this up perfect because I see the guide down the center vertically and horizontally. And then I'm going to drag it or I'm going to drop it there. Then I'm going to take and make my outline so that there's no outline. And now I can't see my design. So I do need to now send this to the back. So over here, where under the, I guess the arrange, I've clicked on the shape format and I'm under arrange here. I will do the drop down and just click send to back. And that might seem kind of weird, like why am I doing that? That's because when we put this in as the background, we want to make sure that it falls onto the slide exactly like this. So what I do next is I click and drag over everything. I make sure everything is selected, including that white background that I made. And then I right click on it and I'm going to hit save as picture. And I'm going to go and save this. One of the things that I like to do is when I'm saving things is I have my folder where this final document will end up, but while I'm working on it, I have these working documents, these pictures that I make and different files. So I have what I call working docs, and that's where I save this. So this is my latitude and longitude doodle notes cover page. You can either save this as a PNG or a JPEG. PNGs are really important, and I will talk about that a little later. For now, I choose to make it a JPEG. Okay, so now I'm going to go back up and I'm going to start a new slide. I'm not going to get rid of this one just yet, just in case I feel like I need to make a change. And now I'm on this new slide. I'm going to actually drag it because this is the cover. So I want this to be at the front. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to Format Background. I'm going to choose Picture, Insert. I'm going to go find that JPEG that I just saved. And there's my cover page, and it can't be changed. Okay, so let's say that you have let's say you need to put in a page that gives them, you have your cover page, this is the page they're going to work on, and maybe you want something in the middle here that is an image of text that gives them information to fill out this slide. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so let's say I wanted to use our textbook. I went on to Clever and I opened up the McGraw-Hill textbook and I went to the student version. And maybe I want my kids to be able to read this text here. So I actually think I would just take a screenshot of this or a snipping tool of this. I originally thought maybe I would use the PDF, but I actually think this would look better for the students. And I like that it has these words highlighted for them. So I'm going to use the snipping tool on this to get it to look how I want it to look. So I'm going to click on my snipping tool. I have it pinned to the bottom. It's easy to pin. I click New, and then I just take a picture of this. I'm going to go File, Save As. This is now a JPEG. So then I go back to my PowerPoint. I'm going to, I'm first going to design how I want it to look because I want to include some directions on this. So I'm going to insert the picture first. Oops. Okay. So maybe I'll move this over to the right. And then maybe I'll put some directions over here. So read this page in order to help them complete the very next page, right? And maybe I'll make it a little bigger. Okay, so before I can save this as an image, once again, I need that black box or that white box to go in the background. So I'm going to come back over here and just steal it from this one. I'm going to copy and paste it in here. I'm going to send it to the back. And then I'm going to select all of it, right click, save as picture. I'm going to put in a new slide. I'm going to right click, format background, click on picture, go find what I just saved. Okay, and now this information is in there for them. If this is all I want them to have for this document, I will then be able to get rid of these working pages. These, I don't need them anymore. I was just saving them in case I wanted to change something. So I'm just going to delete those. And then when the kids open this up, this is what they get. They get a quick cover page, some directions and some information to read, and then they fill in this information. And again, then once they fill this out, I would ask them to take a snipping tool picture of their final worksheet and upload it to Edsby. Now let's say you wanted to make something that is where they can click and drag. So the first thing is I'm going to use a map. So I'm going to start by inserting a picture of a map. So let's say I want to have this map but I need to have somewhere on here for directions, and I need to have somewhere on here that has all of the elements that they can click and drag. I want them to be able to click and drag all of the names of the continents and the oceans. So I'm going to need to make this smaller in order to make room for everything else, right? So maybe I'll put it right here. And the next thing is I will put the directions in. So I will insert a text box. So click and drag the continents and oceans to the correct place on the map. All right, I'm happy with that. The last part is we need to make the click and draggable elements. Let me see, can this be a little bit bigger? Maybe. I'm thinking that I'm going to put my names or the words over here. So I think that should be enough space, I hope. Okay, so in order to make clickable and draggable items, you need to make images. So I'm going to go to a new slide. And I'm going to type in, actually, I'm going to insert a text box. And I'm going to call this, I'm going to choose whatever font I want it to be. Let me think. Make sure that you're 100% okay with the way it looks before you finalize this, because it's not easy to go back and redo all this. Okay, I'm okay with that. All right, so now what I'm going to do is this time when I save this as a picture, I don't want a background because I want this to be where what's behind the letters for North America is a blank background. There's nothing there. So I do not want anything behind it. So I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to go to Save as Picture. And this time we definitely need it to be a PNG. The PNG allows to have a see-through background. And let me think. In my working docs, I'm just going to go ahead and make this easier on myself and put a new folder that says continents and oceans. Then I'm going to double click on it to open it, and I'm going to put this as NAM, North America, right? Okay. But I still have 6 other continents and 4 oceans to do, so I'm going to follow this same pattern. This time though, I'm going to change this to, let's see, I just need to make this South America. And same idea, right click, save as picture. This time I'm going to make this South Sam. Okay, it's all there. Okay. So before I can put in the click and draggable items on the map here for this page, what I need to do is I need to make this into the background. So just like we did before, I'm going to insert a picture, shapes, rectangle, click here. I know it needs to be 8.5 tall. I'm going to make it white. I'm going to drag it so that I know it lines up perfect. There we go. I'm going to get rid of the shape outline and I'm going to send it to the back. Okay. Then I'm going to select all of this, right click, save as picture. Okay, and now I'm just going to actually get rid of this, all of this, and I'm going to right click, format background. I want a picture. Go find that picture I just saved. Here it is. And so now it looks exactly the same, but it's the background. And now I'm going to put in the elements that the students would be able to click and drag. So I'm going to go to Insert, Pictures. I'm going to select all of these and I'm going to insert them. They come in pretty big, and while they're all selected like this, I'm just going to make them smaller. That's probably a good size. The reason I want to do this when they're all selected is so that they are roughly like the same font size. But keep in mind that these are now images. These are no longer fonts. You cannot change these. So maybe I'm going to make them just a little bit smaller. I'll kind of drag and see what it would look like on the map. Yeah, that looks pretty good there. And I'm going to actually move this out of my way for a minute, Africa. I'm going to select these and I'm going to align them. I'm actually going to distribute them evenly first. And then I'm going to select all of them and I'm going to align them to the right. No, I'm going to center align them. Okay, so once I kind of get them set up how I want them to look, I'm just going to place them in there. And I'm pretty okay with that. I don't think I'm going to change anything. I could, if I wanted to make this, I don't know, a little bit easier for the kids, I guess I could go in and put in like whoa, not that. I could make it so that, you know, the picture has a border and maybe they could know that that's what to click on. Let me see, I can make a red border. So maybe then I tell them anytime something that has a red box, you know to click and drag that. But I think I'm just going to leave it like this. And so there we go. So they can now click and drag this. I'm going to get rid of this page. I don't need it anymore. And here is my clickable worksheet. Oh, you know what? One more thing is I'm going to actually go in and put the text boxes in here so that they can fill in their name and date. So I'm going to go to Insert, Text Box. Okay, so now there's the worksheet. Okay, I wanted to show you a few examples of some other digital worksheets that I've created. This one, as you can see, is in a portrait mode as opposed to the landscape mode, which I was using for the other worksheets I showed you. Okay, so for this one, I don't know why, but I like to just have a little cover page. The second slide here, this is a video that I put in here from YouTube. And that's pretty easy to do. And then they get to their first slide that they interact with. And this is a really simple one. It's just a click and drag. And the fourth slide is yet another video. She looks kind of weird, but this is a great video to explain direction for the students. And so then on this slide, they have to identify the cardinal and intermediate directions. And in order to do this task, they will have to use the draw tab up here. So this is something I'm going to have to teach them as well. So you would come up here to where the draw tab is. And the directions say circle the cardinal directions with the color red and the intermediate directions with the color blue. So this is actually pretty simple. They would just kind of choose a red pen and they can circle right here. You can use a mouse. I have a touch screen. They could use a stylus, whatever they wanted. So I chose that to circle the cardinal directions red, so I have to choose a blue to circle the intermediate directions, and that's all they do on that page. It's pretty simple. This page is just a click and fill in. And then this one talks about the hemispheres, and the directions here say color North America green. This is where I will chat with them a little bit about coloring things in, because some of them might be tempted to use just a pen tool for this, but I would recommend that you teach your kids to use the highlighter tools for coloring something in. And let me show you why. If I was to use the green pen here, and color in North America green like the directions say, when I color on top of this, I can no longer see, like let's say that's just what they do. I can no longer see what's behind it, the actual map. And if a child turns that into me like that, I of course will accept it. But I want to encourage you and to encourage your students to instead of using the pen tool for coloring something in, to just grab the highlighter tool. Because when you highlight something, you can still see what is behind it. So here I'm coloring that in North America. And with digital worksheets, it's probably not going to be the most beautiful coloring, but I just want to see that they can identify what continent or what land, makes up the North America continent. And really, I want them to see that South America falls here on both the northern and the southern hemispheres. So that's why I'm having them color this in. Let's see, it says trace the equator with the color red, so that's pretty easy. They could take a red pen and then they can just draw that in. And then the last thing is they just have to circle the answer to this question. So very simple and straightforward. The last thing that you'll need to make sure that you show them is when they switch back and forth from, like, let's say they had to go back to this slide if this was the very next slide. Right now, I am in the draw mode. So if they tried to select this, they would not be able to type, and they'd probably get really frustrated. So if you teach them to either come up here and press this button right here, it says select with the arrow, or just press the letter S on the keyboard, you can press and select things, and then they can go right back into the mode of typing. So that's one of those things that might, it's just a learning curve. And once they get used to it, to transition from a draw pen tool to the cursor tool, you just have to be prepared for that. Finishing up this directions and hemispheres worksheet, I just have then the Western and Eastern hemispheres, and then a quick check of their knowledge at the end. Okay, so once a student has completed their worksheets and they're in a PowerPoint that has several pages for them to turn in, meaning they're going to have to take more than one or two snipping tools, I would probably have them create a PDF out of this. So I want to show you how to do that. And it's a little bit different. You want to go to File, Export. So this time we're not going to save as, or save. You don't even want the save as PDF. You want to go to Export. If you have at the top here that it says Create Adobe PDF, don't click on this. What you want actually is Create PDF/XPS document. And this is going to make sure that they don't have to save. If I click on this, create Adobe PDF, it's going to tell me that I have to save the current PowerPoint document, and I don't want to do that. I want to just completely export what I've done in this and then close it out. So anyway, I want to create a PDF/XPS, and then you publish it the same way. You're basically saving it. And I'm gonna have them we'll just put it on the desktop so it's nice and easy. Maybe I might add my name to the end of this. You could even encourage them to select this right here to minimize the size. Standard would be just fine as well. It might just make it easier for you, the teacher, to open things a little bit faster and then press publish. And so this, I don't want to save that. So when they go to upload the document, it will be as a PDF. And you can see the quality is like it's not as sharp, and that's just because we chose to make it a smaller document so it opens faster. They would upload this to Edsby just like we uploaded a JPEG. So this is another digital worksheet that I wanted to share with you. I created this entirely in PowerPoint, and the only thing, once again, that the kids can change are the things where it says click here to type. And I wanted to show you another thing you can have them do is I'm going to have them add pictures. And what's great about PowerPoint is they can search for pictures and put them in here, and you don't really have to worry about them finding anything too crazy on the internet. So what you would do is have them go over to Insert, Pictures, and I'm going to have them go to Online Pictures. And let's say they wanted to add mountains. I'm going to have them probably always use, well, they can use regular pictures, but I'm going to suggest that they use clip art. So whatever it is, if they're looking for mountains, add the word clip art. If they're looking for a river, add clip art, whatever they're looking for. And then they can choose whatever mountains they'd like. So I think this is really great for not only completing worksheets in my classroom, but also teaching them some really important skills in PowerPoint. And then they would type their notes here. One thing you can do to make your life a little easier when you're creating these digital worksheets is you can create themes. And themes are something that you can just open up and your document will already be set up exactly how you want it. So let me show you what I mean. First thing, like usual, I always click, drag over and select these boxes and then delete them. And I'm going to go over to the Design tab here, and I'm going to change this to a custom slide size. And I'm going to do a portrait one. So the width is 8.5 by 11. And now what I need to do is save this as a theme. Over here under the Design tab, there's this section called Themes. And over here is a drop-down arrow. You just click that, hit Save Current Theme. And since I know this is a portrait, I'm just going to name this Letter Portrait. So now what I can do is I can close PowerPoint and then open it back up. So when I go to create a new document, instead of clicking blank presentation here, I'm going to click on More Themes. And I think it defaults to Office here, but right over here you can click on Custom. And I can choose then the letter portrait. And when I open this up, it's going to already be set up like this. Like I just have to click and drag over and delete these boxes. I wanted to show you a couple tips and tricks when you're working with images. Over here I have, this is a Roman coin, and let's say that I wanted to get rid of this background. One thing you can do is you can click on the image, go to Format Picture, Remove Background. When you choose to remove background, the background will turn purple. At least what Microsoft thinks is the background, it's going to turn it purple. And you can choose to keep that, and it kind of works. It's okay. It's not the best. The problem is when I get to another image, and let's say I want to just cut out this picture and not have the background. Let me show you. I click on the picture, I come over here to Remove Background, and you can see it doesn't really do that great of a job. If I go to Mark Areas to Keep, it can kind of get cumbersome trying to mark areas that you want to remove and mark areas that you want to keep. And it's kind of, to me, it's not the best tool. So there is another option for you I wanted to show you. If you go to the internet, there is a website called remove.bg, and it's excellent for removing backgrounds. So all you have to do is click here where it says Upload Image, and then find your image. And it just cuts things out really nice and clean for you. You just have to download the image. and then you can save it to your computer. Sometimes I'll just hit copy and go back into my presentation and paste it in here. And you can see that you get like a nice clean version of it. And let me show you the difference between that and the remove background. So it's just better. So just something I wanted to share with you. The next thing is, I'm assuming you know how to do this, but just in case you don't, let's say I wanted to cut out these 3 pictures here of these buildings, for the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. So what I would do is I would click on the picture, and then I would click where it says picture format, and I would go to crop. And when you crop something, you get these little like black bars, and you can hover over it. And when you hover over it, you get the cursor goes from a white arrow to this like black cross thing. And you can just kind of crop out what you don't want in there. So anyway, and then you can put that original picture back in and cut out the executive branch, right? So it's just a simple crop. The last thing I wanted to show you is, you may have been looking at my drag and drop of the continents, wondering how would you cut out all of these continents. So let's look at that. The first thing I would do is I would probably get rid of the water. It's all this same color blue, which is going to make what I'm about to show you nice and simple. So I click on the picture, I go to picture format. Over here where it says color, I'm going to go to the drop down, and there's this thing called set transparent color. I'm going to click on that, and all I have to do is just click anywhere on that light blue, and what's going to happen is, now that I've clicked on that light blue to set that as transparent, that's all see-through now, if you can kind of tell, right? Okay, so the next thing I would need to do is, I still need to cut out each of these continents. And it does take a little bit of work, so let me show you what I would do. First, I would probably, just to make it simple on myself, as I like to just crop it down, just like I showed you on the last thing. And then I hit crop. And for some people, maybe that would be fine with them. But for me, I would like to get rid of all of this extra stuff around it. So this can be a little time consuming, but it's actually quite easy to do. So I'm going to zoom in pretty close. I'm going to deselect the picture. I'm going to go up to the Insert tab, and I'm going to go to Shapes, the drop-down arrow for Shapes. And over here, this funny looking shape, it's called a freeform shape. I am going to select that tool. And all I have to do is click and click. And every time I click, it kind of sets a point, and then a line drags behind it. And I'm going to be telling this where to cut. So the last one is really important, because you want to make sure that you connect it all together to make one shape. So do you see how when I move my cursor close to the first click, it sort of snaps to a shape? That's what we want it to do. And now we have 2 different things. I have the picture behind it, and then this funny blue shape on top. And all I need to do, and this is kind of important, the order that you do this is important. So the first thing I want to do is make sure I select the picture first. That is the continents picture first. Then I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to select this weird blue shape that I just made. And it's important that I select it in that order. Then I'm going to come up here to where it says Shape Format. I'm going to go to Merge Shapes, and I'm going to choose Intersect, and that's just going to sort of cut out the picture. So now I have just North America there. Okay, the last thing you might need to do is, you might be saying, well, I don't want it to say North America, and that's a pretty simple fix as well. So I'm going to go back to Insert. This time I'm going to go to Shapes, but I'm going to choose the rectangle, and I'm going to just click and drag a rectangle over this. And I'm going to go to Shape Outline, and I'm going to say No Outline. And then I'm going to go to the drop down for shape fill, and I'm going to grab the eyedropper tool, and I'm just going to hover over the yellow, and now that is covered up. The only thing here is if I click and move this, you can see that the letters are revealed. So what I would need to do is now create a picture out of this. Just like we've done before, I'm going to go and select everything. So that means the picture of North America plus that little yellow box I put on top of it. I'm going to right click. I'm going to hit save as picture. And basically I'm going to follow the same procedure. I do want this to be a PNG because I still want all the surrounding part of the continent to remain transparent and see-through. So I'm going to save this. Then if I go back up to insert pictures, I go and find that image that I just saved. So now it looks exactly the same, but there's no image on there for them to select and move around. Another option, if you don't want to have to save this as an image and insert it again, is you could also drag and click and drag over these two again. And instead of saving it as a picture, you could right click and hit group. And this will group them together, but it can, if you have students who click a lot, they can eventually like click and mess it all up. So I would suggest that you do the picture thing. That's just my suggestion though. So once I have North America looking how I want it to look, I would just need to go back and insert that original picture. And start the process all over again and cut out all 7 continents. So it's a bit of work to complete something like this. So make sure it's something you really want to do. But I just wanted to give you the tools in case you did want to cut something out, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be continents. Maybe it's something else. You would just follow the same procedures.